Oh, that's it.
All right. So here we are at the path. It gets a little muddy as we go down that way, so we'll talk here for a bit. So I want to talk a little bit about, the theory of mental health at the late 19th and early 20th centuries. So the late 19th and early 20th century saw considerable growth in state-sponsored treatment of the mentally ill. Because in previous decades in the 19th century, the insane were dealt with by basically confining them to prison-like settings or poorhouses where abuse or neglect were common. But in about 1850, 1860, a new breed of physicians sought more progressive methods of treatment. Now, one of the most influential figures in changing the mental health landscape was a man named Dr. Thomas Story Kirkbride. Kirkbride called for more humane treatment centered on improved medical care. He felt the mentally ill were suffering from illnesses that could be treated or even cured. And so, putting theory into practice, Kirkbride developed what he called a moral management plan, and that even incorporated new architectural concepts for asylums. So his plan called for a central administration section of the asylum with flanked by patient wings with setbacks to allow for maximum light and ventilation. Central administration tower flanked by patient wings and usually connected by corridors. In addition, patients were were encouraged to work. Yikes, what a slip of the tongue. No, patients were encouraged to work as that provided a sense of purpose and responsibility that helped regulate the mind and improve physical fitness. So Fergus Falls was awarded Minnesota's third state hospital in December 1886. First was St. Peter and then Rochester. And I tell you, the competition to get the third state hospital was really intense throughout the state of Minnesota. Fergus Falls was awarded the state hospital because they had an area of land that had good ventilation and drainage. Okay? There was plenty of land around it for farming and expansion, and there was an ample water supply. Those are the basic needs. Oh, and an infrastructure of transportation with the railroad. Just real practical common sense applications is why Fergus Falls was awarded. I don't know what the backroom politicking was, but that's neither here nor there. Well-known Minnesota architect Warren Donnell was retained to draw up plans for the new asylum based on Kirkbride's concepts. So when we call our state hospital the Kirkbride, I don't always do that. I like to call it the Fergus Falls State Hospital because it's just based on Kirkbride's concepts. He was not an architect. Construction began in the spring of 1888, and then the westernmost part, the West Detached Building, opened in July 1890, and it really was intended to be the most complete and modern institution available of its kind. "We are ready for the patients," stated Dr. Alonzo Williamson, the hospital's first superintendent. And the influence of Kirkbride's moral management approach is clear in Williamson's first public comments. Williamson said, "The entire theory and practice of this institution will be based on the fact that patients are not criminals for whom we have to care, but sick people, brain sick. They are just as much the subjects of disease as one who has consumption, and treatments will be directed not to restraint and punishment, but to cure. Milk is the main special diet in this hospital, and we prefer to give it hot. Next in importance is rest. All new patients are placed in bed upon admission, and through the complementary forces of milk and rest, we will be able to dispense with every kind of physical restraint. Homeopathy at its peak right there, milk and rest. Of course, the first patients at the state hospital were described as the quieter and milder type, but was that homeopathic approach, could that still be utilized as the patient population increased? Well, you'll have to take my tour next summer to get more of those stories. All right, we are now, so please be careful. This is a very rutted part of the path. We are now going to go down to the entrance of the cemetery.
I need beer and rest.
What, a beer and rest?
Yeah.
A little more my speed. A donut and rest.
Yeah.
I had one of those cool, or what's it called? Mike's hard
Lemonades,
I
yeah.
had one of those last night, and I woke up with a little headache. I'm like, seriously? One?
Yeah, usually one doesn't do it. At least two or three, then you're talking probably a headache.
Yeah, so I thought, oh, you're going to do that. Kind of a gummy that gives migraine.
Usually one will get rid of a headache for me, so.
Does it? Oh,
Yeah.
I think I got to stick to Pucker, that's the core with 7-Up.
Something that works for you.
Yeah, and that one does. So I think I'll just stick to that one.
Sorry, we're probably going to get your car a little muddy in the
Oh, that's okay.
way back.
Yeah, I'm not too good. Cars are meant to be used. People pick up, I'm like, I want to get a little Ranger. I'll use it.
Oh, I love my Ranger.
bet.
Oh, you mean Ranger, like the little four-wheeler
Yeah.
Ranger? Yeah,
No,
those are
like
nice.
a pickup.
Oh, pickup, okay.
Dad had one. But
Oh, I
yeah.
love my Rangers. They were great trucks. So.
Oh, yeah. I thought I wouldn't mind getting used. I'm the type that'll go get, like, rocks. I don't care. Put them down.
Yeah.
I'm going to use things. And,
That's one thing I said when I got a house. I go, I'm going to have a truck all the time just for the reason is if you want to haul anything.
oh, yeah. His little Ranger, it was, I can't remember what year, it was perfect. But it needed work and had no air, and it just needed some work.
I had 3 Rangers before this truck, so I had a 93, 98, and no, just 2, 93 and 98. So
I think this one, I'm trying to go what year. But I just love ginning around in that thing.
oh yeah. Are you a clutch driver?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoes are untied again.
Oh, good for you. I'll stop. Better not stop.
Just don't want you to step on them.
Thank you. I don't know why. I had them tight. I'll pull off. Rose bushes here, see it?
Yep. Wild rose
Little
bushes,
stone
yep.
there.
Used to pick them as a kid.
Oh, did you?
Yep. That one neighbor made potpourri out of them, so
Oh,
we pick them for her.
cool. I remember up by Lake Brunson and the Stephen area, they had wild, what are they called? I can't remember what they
Okay,
really,
never
do you
seen
remember
those.
up there? They're probably close to Lake Brunson, but they had fields of them.
Yeah.
And the ditches were full of these wild orange fire. They were just beautiful. We picked bunches of them.
Yeah, my mom told the story that she picked all these pretty flowers.
Uh-oh.
Found out they were the state flower. It's the lady slipper. It's illegal to pick them.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Live and learn, right? But
Yeah.
those are really neat flowers.
Those are really neat flowers, yeah. You can find them. They're a little rare to find.
I
But
bet. Yeah, probably a little more now.
surprised how many people turned out. It's a pretty good crowd.
We'll have to come next summer and do this.
This next presentation, yeah.
We came down one Halloween at the actual center and
Yeah.
they did this.
Yeah, I came down too, and
Oh, did you?
yeah.
Maybe you were there. Was it like maybe 6 years ago?
Something like that, yeah. It was one of their last tours that they did.
I bet you. And they had chairs inside. Were you there?
Chairs inside, no. They're talking about that they rented out to the police department and they were going through their practicing, like with the little pellet rounds and
Yeah.
each other and playing some games, basically, military games.
Again, there are just numbers there, but they're not.
I'll try to get in a little closer.
We get a lot of requests of people looking for information, but we have the list at the Historical Society index of people. But if you're looking for specific information on people, it's all with the state of Minnesota. So I think Minnesota Historical Society, we do not locally have any patient information. You guys doing okay back there? All right. So, despite, so I was talking about the progressive approach, the Kirkbride Moral Management Plan. So despite the progressive approach, one area of hospital management that did not seem to really live up to Kirkbride's moral management plan was how the hospital dealt with death. I mean, during the hospital's first years of operation, the average annual death rate was 4%. Okay? So even though patient deaths were an inevitable part of operating an asylum, it just did not appear much thought was given on what to do with the patient when they died. For example, in the very first biennial report to the State Board of Control in 1892, Dr. Williamson asked for funding for a morgue. His request was denied. 2 years later, the hospital's new superintendent, Dr. George Welsh, also requested funds for a morgue. And this is what he wrote. Since the opening of the hospital, we have been using a basement room under one of the wards for the purpose of a morgue. This, besides being entirely inadequate for the purpose, is located immediately underneath a large room occupied by patients, neither a healthful nor cheerful arrangement. I would recommend the appropriation of a sufficient fund for the erection of a morgue outside the hospital buildings. You would think, okay. But once again, Welsh's request fell on deaf ears as his request was denied. So in addition to keeping dead bodies in the basement, they were also placed in plain pine coffins that were made by patients themselves. So needless to say, this arrangement was disconcerting for patients and staff alike. And so every 2 years, Dr. Welsh requested funds for a morgue, and each time the state said no. It was not until 1914, 24 years after the hospital opened, did the state finally appropriate $5,000 for a suitable morgue. Approving money for a morgue came just in time. The number of deaths remained relatively stable until 1918, when the great influenza pandemic exacted a heavy toll. So from 1915 to 1917, the average annual death rate was just over 54. But during the 1918 pandemic, it more than doubled to 109. And at its peak, The Fergus Falls the Fergus Falls Weekly Journal reported that influenza at the state hospital claimed 54 lives alone in October. 32 of those are buried here at the state hospital. Now the thing is, the death rate may have been even higher if not for proactive vaccination and isolation measures taken by the hospital's medical staff several years earlier. In an attempt to contain the spread of deadly disease, a contagious hospital was constructed in 1910, a building that still stands today with the stone kind of foundation. That's still up at the hospital. In addition, in February 1913, the Daily Journal reported the Fergus Falls State Hospital has just undertaken typhoid fever vaccination on a scale never before attempted in any institution in the United States, right here in Fergus Falls. And the typhoid project was initiated by staff doctors whose primary goal was patient protection. In a September 1915 presentation before the Minnesota Public Health Association, Dr. Charles Burlingham said, "The hospital had endured fair-sized typhoid epidemics, but after that careful investigation, we felt we owed our patients the protection of anti-typhoid vaccination, and the work started." So, just in this section by this tree, I want you to kind of look over here. I'm going to talk about a patient who was buried here. Louisa Leaf was 1 year old when she left Sweden with her parents in 1880. They settled in St. Louis County, where her father took in boarders in their house for extra income. Now, around 1900, Louisa became romantically involved with one of the boarders, a man who ended up betraying her. As the betrayal wreaked havoc on Louisa's mental state, her family attempted to deal with the situation themselves, as the September 21st, 1903 Daily Journal reported. The article says 24-year-old Louisa Leaf was imprisoned in a crude pen made of cedar posts in a corner of her parents' home. Some months ago, her mind was affected in a mild degree, and she was sent to the state hospital. A short time later, her parents secured her release by promising to care for her. But once back home, Louisa became violent, and at this point, her brother built the pen that she was forced to remain in. A lock secured the door, and inside was a bed, chair, and chamber pot. Food was passed through an opening. Louisa is a sweet-faced creature, and her tortured brain dwells on the cruel deception that was played upon her by a man only known as Frank. Louisa Leaf died at the state hospital in 1907, becoming the 617th burial in the cemetery, and she is buried in this section by this tree, unmarked. Okay, so we're going to go up. I want you to notice, if you're looking for kumbaya stories on this tour, you're not going to find them. Not very much. These are all sad stories. That's why people are here. So I know it's going to be a downer sometimes, but that's the reality of the state hospital and the cemetery here. Notice that there's a smattering of headstones up in the cemetery, so up on the hill. And you can kind of see there's indentations, a little bit. That's places, where they were buried. But the hospital did not pay for these markers. They were likely paid for by family members or maybe descendants. Okay? The in-ground markers that we're going to see, there are several in-ground markers, and there are little crates on the side. That's a result of a project called Remembering with Dignity. and an organization whose goal is to provide markers for those buried in all of Minnesota's asylums. They have done some here in Fergus Falls, none for a number of years because they don't have the funds to do it. So there are a number of these crates along the side of the cemetery with names on them that are waiting to be placed and for funding to do that. All right, any questions or comments? Well, you know, I mean, they just had a lot of patients dying, you know, so they just expanded the cemetery. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to progressively walk down to the old. I'll show you where the oldest part of the cemetery is.
Oh, wow.
To go from
You guys don't get me. I think one of these guys that's involved with. That's a different one.
It's 4 stacked up.
Yeah.
Looks like.
I've never seen one like that.
Here's one. Let's see.
So here's the gravestone of a man named August Volkner, and this is what we know of August Volkner. He was born in New York to German immigrant parents. He was living in Oak Valley Township here in Otter Tail County when he was admitted to the hospital in September 1890, shortly after it opened, at the age of 46. He's listed as single, Lutheran, and a farmer. Volkner had been apparently ill for 23 years, it says in his papers, and he died in April 1904 of tuberculosis. Single, Lutheran, farmer, German, lived in Oak Valley Township. That's it. Okay, so here is the marker for Edward Ragnerud. When a patient died, hospital officials made every effort to contact relatives so a patient could be buried in his or her home area. But for many, there was just simply no place to go. If a patient was alone or no one wanted to claim him or her, such as Louisa Leaf, officials had no choice but to bury them here at state expense. And for most of them, little information is available on their lives.
So, Edward Rankerud, he was born in Norway, lived in Big Stone County before being admitted to the state hospital in February 1895 at age 46. He was 5'5", 123 pounds, blue eyes with auburn hair, single. His occupation is listed as farmer. And he died in September 13th, 1901 at the State Hospital of pneumonia.